A few videos ago, I did bottles that were not worth secondary prices, and today we're going to do the flip of that. We're going to do bottles that I actually think are worth secondary prices. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Brad's Bourbon Reviews. I'm Brad, and today we are talking about bourbons that are actually worth secondary pricing. Now, hear me out. There is going to be people in the comments that say no bourbon is worth secondary prices, and to that I say I understand you, I hear you. However, there are people like myself who like to complete lineups, who like to try these very rare and hard to find bottles. I do fall into that camp sometimes. There are bottles that I am still trying to get my hands on, like the Wild Turkey Cheesy Gold Foil. I'm still trying to find one of those. I have yet to do so. I've yet to see one that makes sense for me financially. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a price cap on each one of these bottles. Now, keep in mind too, in some cases, I'm kind of looking a little further down the road after these bottles have been released, and like kind of what's out there is what's out there. What's left of them is what's left. So I'm kind of playing that angle as well in this video. And look, if these don't make sense to you to buy secondary and you just don't think it's worth the money for you, that is totally fine. These are in no particular order. All right, first one up here is a bottle that I think stands in for the entire lineup of these, and these are very hard to come by. I have only ever seen one of these in person for retail, and it was at a Publix a few years ago. And I love this bottle, and I don't think this year's release is the best year of this release, but these are incredible. And if you can ever get one of these, I say you should do it. These are the Four Roses barrel strength bottles. I absolutely adore these. Some of the best bourbons I've ever had have been in this bottle. I think it's the 2020 or the 2021 that is in like my top 3 bourbons I've ever had in my entire life. I had it at a friend's house one night. It's an unbelievable bottle. And again, this one isn't necessarily that good. It is really good. I think the most I'd be willing to pay for one of these, and in particular for me, because they're just like so unattainable, because they just don't show up here ever. It would be about $550. It would depend on the year, but I don't think I would spend more than that for one of these, because I think at that point there's just things that it just kind of gets silly after $500. But I do think they are really solid bottles, and if you ever get a chance to get your hands on one of these, you should kind of do whatever you have to do, because they're fantastic. And these are kind of like Jim Beam lineage, where like even if you don't like Jim Beam or you don't like Four Roses or whatever the brand is, I think you'll still like it, because it's one of those transcendent bottles, and these are just amazing bottles of bourbon. Moving on to the next one. All right, it's a Brad's Bourbon Reviews video. You know there's going to be a Jack Daniel's bottle on here, but what bottle do I think is worth paying secondary for? It might surprise you. I got this bottle at an allocated bourbon drop in North Carolina a few years ago, and when I first went home and tried it, I was really blown away by it, and I still think it's the best one that I've had of this bottle. I don't know if it's worth what it was going for on secondary at the time, because those were like kind of ridiculous, but I will give you a price point that I think you should pay if you can still find these. This is a Jack Daniel's single barrel, Eric Church single barrel. Eric Church is a country singer, and he's actually started his own whiskey bourbon brand called Gypsy, and they've sent me stuff a few years ago. It's actually really good stuff. But this Jack Daniel's single barrel is just one of the coolest looking bottles on the shelf. I still think it's a really cool single barrel, and these were released I think in 2020. Yeah, July 23rd, 2020. So these are a few years old now. I don't know how many of these are left. Yes, they are just regular Jack Daniel's single barrels at 47 proof. However, this one is like an exceptional barrel. And I know he did a few of these because there's a few different releases. So the one that I can vouch for being a fantastic barrel is barrel 20-04085. If you ever see that come across your radar, or you see it on a secondary page somewhere and you see it for around $200, I would say get it. Now remember, with this one, you're buying the whole package. You're buying this really cool black bottle. You're buying the fact that it is a celebrity whiskey, and I understand that. To a degree, it's still Jack Daniel's, but it is a celebrity affiliated bourbon. Jack Daniel's is bourbon. See, the government says so. But it is really good. I do want to temper people's expectations with this, because this is probably the least good bottle on this list, but to me it is still worth it to have a really exceptional and really cool looking bottle of Jack Daniel's single barrel at 94 proof. Moving on to the next one. All right, next up is a bottle from one of my favorite distilleries right now, Wild Turkey, with a bottle that was very popular last year and people really flipped out for it, and for good reason. It's a really fantastic bottle. This is Wild Turkey Beacon. Now, I am going to preface this by saying I don't think this is worth full secondary pricing, because those numbers were a little out of fucking control. I would probably spend around, if I absolutely had to, which I think I did the first time I bought this thing, I spent over secondary prices, and here I am telling you that it's still worth it. So take that or leave it. I think if I had to go back and buy a second one now, I probably would only spend around $550 on this one. And again, these are just so hard to find. When you can find them, they're expensive anyway, because everyone wanted these when these came out. And this one really did grow on me. The first time I had it, I thought it was okay. I did the classic thing where I sat there and I thought about it too much and I talked myself into buying one. And I'm so glad I did, because I would be very sad if I didn't have one of these on the shelf. This one is such a great bottle. I wish I could go back and like give this bottle of the year last year. I think it's a fantastic bourbon. Wild Turkey doesn't miss, and I know their pricing's a little insane, but when you get bottles as good as this, this one is worth $500 or $600. It really, unfortunately, is. People always say no bourbon is worth that. And there's a few other ones on this list that I think are worth that. Again, maybe that is not financially feasible for you to do so. And if that is the case, I totally understand. But if you can, I would do whatever it takes to get one of these Wild Turkey Beacons. Plus, also, it's the last Master's Keep they did. So it's kind of a cool little way to end it, and it's one of the best bourbons on my shelf. Moving on to the next one. All right, next up is a Texas bourbon, and it is one of the best bottles I had all last year. This is one of my biggest bourbon regrets. I could have bought 3 of these at one point, and I only bought the one because I didn't know much about it at the time. And I didn't want to overspend on a bottle that like ended up not being great, and I just am kicking myself that I realistically could have gotten as many of these as I wanted. It's one of my favorite bourbons I've ever had. It's an unbelievable bottle. Short of $800, I would genuinely pay that for this. This is the Still Austin Tanager Batch 1. Batch 2 is out and about and it's kicking, and I have seen people get it and I've heard good things, but I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. So I'm only going to speak for Batch 1 right now. But this bourbon, I swear to God, this is another one. If you can find this batch, buy it, keep it for a special occasion, whatever you have to do, but just make sure you get one of these. These are so incredibly good. I don't even know really what else to say. It is a cigar batch. It does pair very, very well with a cigar. It is still on its own just an unbelievable bottle. You can tell which bottles I love in my collection and only have one of because they start and end right there. I don't touch this because I'm so scared that I'll never find another one, and I want to keep it for as long as I possibly can. It's an unbelievable bourbon. It is up there with some of the best on this list. I think it's a fantastic bottle of bourbon, a crowning gem of Texas bourbon, and one of the best releases Still Austin has ever done. And to this day, it's one of my favorite bourbons I've ever had. Moving on to the next one. All right, we're going to head back to Wild Turkey for one of the better bourbons in my collection as well. I think this bourbon is a once-in-a-generation bourbon. I have heard people say that the cheesy gold foil still is not as good as this bottle is. This came out in 2024. It is the Russell's Reserve 15. I am anxiously awaiting a batch 2 of this. I hope it happens. I hope they didn't divert and just make this a one-off, because this is all I have of it, and I want another one. And I would spend, I'm not kidding, around $700 for another one of these. That's the thing with this bottle. It's so incredibly good that it's almost unreasonable how much money I would spend to get another one of these. I have genuinely never seen another one since I bought this one, and I overspent on this one. I think I spent $500 on this one. I would do it again in a heartbeat. This thing won so many Bourbon of the Year awards the year it came out, and I think that's fair. I just love it. I just think it is an unbelievable bottle. Wild Turkey does not miss with these high age stated special releases that they have been doing over the past few years. They just do not miss. It is the only one I think that's not amazing was the first batch or two of the 13 year. But other than that, everything they have put out has been phenomenal. I haven't tried all of the single rick houses. The only one I haven't tried is the most recent one that came out last year, but every other one of those is just an amazing bourbon. They're just incredible bottles of bourbon. So this is one you save for a wedding, a family reunion, a special event. It is one of those levels of bourbons where it's this is a life event bourbon. They are so incredibly great. And if you can ever find one and you can afford to buy it, you absolutely should treat yourself. Moving on to the next one. And while we're on the topic of the Russell's Reserve, I just today, this came in the mail today, got my Russell's Reserve 13 from Wild Turkey. My wife was in the little lottery thing and was able to get one, so I have one, and I'm excited. And this will be its own dedicated video coming up soon. And if you want to see my thoughts on the new Russell's 13, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Up next is a bottle that I'm only putting on this list because I think that the secondary prices have become way more reasonable for this bottle than they used to be. When I first got into bourbon, these were $1,700 bottles. And while this is my favorite of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection year after year, I don't think they're worth $1,700. Unless you're talking about one of those old batches that don't exist anymore, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the current year-to-year releases. I don't think they're worth $1,700 every year. However, sometimes they are. I've had a few GTSs in my day. I think the 2017 one was unbelievable. Truly top 10 all-time bourbons for me. So this is the George C. Stagg. If I walked into a liquor store and I saw this for $5.50, there's no way I would leave it there. That is my top price though. I have gotten these year after year for MSRP, or at least very, very close to MSRP. Very fortunate. Between the ABC Vault Systems, Publix's, and Walmart's here in Central Florida, they have come through for me, and even some Walgreens have come through for me over the last few years. So it's harder for me to put this one on the list, but I do love George C. Stagg that much that if I saw it for that and it was a year that I already knew I liked, I'd be like, I'm going to do it. Who cares? It's just money will make more. That's what I keep telling myself. I don't know if it's true, but we'll find out. I don't think all of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection bottles deserve that secondary price, but for this one now, with how much lower that price has gotten, I think it's totally fair to pay that for one of these because I think these are that good. I don't think William LaRue Weller is as good as George C. Stagg to me on my personal palate preference. George C. Stagg is like my jam, so I love it, and I think it's worth the money at that new secondary lower price. Moving on to the last one. And last up here, still to this day, the highest rated bourbon I've ever done on Brad's Bourbon Reviews. And I am only talking about this specific barrel from this release. This is the Detling Gold Wax, aged 82 months. I don't have a barrel number on here, but it's the one, it's 82 months, 57.05% alcohol. That should be very specific. Look, it is insane how good these are. If I saw another one, I would spend $650 to have this again. This is all I have left, and I know these are very hard to come by. They are such a pain in the ass to get a hold of, and they're just that good. People are chasing these because they're some of the best bourbon I've ever had. This is probably my number one all time. This bottle, I think it's just a perfect bourbon. It is genuinely just like tailor-made for my palate. I think it is just perfect. I will say this again, not all of these are that good. I have heard from people that they're like, I like that one. The other one's not so much. I have had 2 batches of this one. The first one, it felt like I was drinking coffee. It was that thick and it was that like viscousy. This one is more tobacco, leather, cherry, dark brown sugar notes. It's fantastic. I am not saying go out and spend that much money on all Dettling Golds. I am saying if you see this specific one pop up and you can't afford it, don't go into debt, don't do anything crazy, but if you can afford it, this is one of the best bourbons you will ever try if you like the high malted barley content, because they do that with Dettling stuff. So comment down below, let me know what bourbons you think are worth secondary prices, and if the answer is none, that's fine too. While you're down there, make sure you leave a like and subscribe because we are on the road to 15,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, cheers. A big thank you to all the Patreon supporters you see on screen right now.